I want to start today's episode talking about the Arterio Morris situation at Kansas. For those that are unaware, Arterio Morris has been dismissed from the Kansas basketball program. This comes after Arterio has been named and accused of a rape that has happened on Kansas's campus. This is a new incident and not the incident that Arterio was originally in hot water for during his time at Texas, where he was accused of a misdemeanor charge. I believe it was an assault charge. So, pretty messy situation here. Arterio Morris no longer on Kansas for the season. Obviously, that has an impact on their basketball side of things. It's also a pretty crazy situation as far as I can't believe they let him on this team in the first place. And I have some thoughts on it all, but I'll just throw it to you. Where do you want to start with this? What's kind of the big, I don't know if there's a takeaway or what. What's your thought on the Arterio Morris Kansas?
So I have three main takeaways from this. One, I'll start on a positive note. Good on Kansas for actually doing the process, kicking them off the team, not stringing this along. I think they acted pretty promptly on handling the situation and actually removing him from the team and doing all that. My second point, I also think that Kansas should be held accountable somewhat. And I don't know if this is a universal take, but if you accept a player who has this type of history and had these type of situations, allegations against him, I think that you should somewhat be held accountable if it happens again at your under your watch. Now I'm not saying they can like keep an eye on him 24/7 and have full blame for this, but you knew what he was accused of before he went there, and then he goes there and he damn near does it again. So to me, some accountability, and I don't know what the actual phrase I would use for it is like, but I think that Kansas has to feel somewhat responsible for this, even if it's in a very minuscule way. And then my third thing about it is just from a basketball perspective, this really hurts Kansas. Like I thought in the preseason, Arterio Morris was playing well in the Bahamas trip. He looked to be a guy who was actually knocking down shots as well. And, for all the things that people said about Kansas, and is Timberlake going to be a guy who can shoot it? Is Marco Jackson going to be a guy who can shoot it? Arterio Morris was that other guy who they kind of put into the fold of being able to be a shooter and a scorer for this basketball team. So I think it really hurts them, and it puts a lot of pressure on Marco Jackson and Nick Timberlake to produce at a high level now. So it definitely hurts them. And I don't know if this, relates apples to apples, but probably like five, maybe even almost like 7 years ago, something like that. Michigan State football took a defensive end who literally had like a sexual assault charge in high school, came to Michigan State's campus, happened again on Michigan State's campus. Like, and then when that happened, I was like, this is somewhat of a black eye on the Michigan State football coaches and program, because they knew what this kid did in high school. Credit to them for giving him a second chance, but when he does it at the same time under your watch, I feel like you're somewhat responsible for it.
Yes, I agree. I don't have much as far as basketball that I care about in this situation. I think Arterio Morris was going to be good. I thought he was great on the overseas trip. Obviously, losing a player that you expected to maybe be your starting shooting guard and at worst be your sixth man is impactful and problematic for the Kansas basketball team. I am kind of baffled by the way this news has been, I guess, relayed publicly to people. Like, I'm very confused why there isn't more outrage about this. And I don't want to just go like screaming outrage or play like your tragedy versus my tragedy here. But I'm trying to imagine, like, if this had happened to Tom Izzo, he's getting crucified. And I'm not a Michigan State basketball fan, but I can accurately assess the way the media has covered things like this with Tom Izzo in the past. And look, I think Tom Izzo has made mistakes with giving guys second chances and overlooking some serious things. And I think the media has correctly covered those as far as the problems with that. They've also accused him of doing some things he had nothing to do with. Like, they've accused him of being a part of a cultural toxicity at Michigan State that has nothing to do with Tom Izzo. And man, like, Bill Self knew this guy had an assault charge. Like, the allegations were horrible at the time. He was allowed to play all of last season at Texas, and then it's like they didn't care. And then they brought him here, and there's an immediate rape. Like, within months of being at camp, there's a rape. That's horrible. And I feel like the way this is being covered is not at all like, this is a really bad look for Bill Self, or why did Bill Self do this, or Kansas enabled this to happen. None of that's been said. Honestly, the only person I've heard say that at all is Rob Doster. And I give Rob a lot of credit for saying it. I think his mentions were pretty toxic, but I'm just baffled. I'm baffled because I think there's a lot of other coaches in the country that if they make this mistake and this is the result, they are under fire. It's front page ESPN News. And I cannot figure out why that's not the case with Bill Self. I know
that's why.
Because he's the best coach in the sport, so he can do whatever he wants.
That's why it's awful. Like, literally, it's awful. That's the reason that nothing's being said about it, because it is Bill Self. And honestly, a lot of the media members that I saw, it was all praising Bill Self, actually, which is even crazier to me. They're praising Bill Self for, acting swiftly, getting rid of him, doing all this, and doing the right thing, when it was very public information what Arterio Morris did, especially on the it was very nasty stuff. I'm not going to dive into the details of it, but what he was accused of and the evidence that was presented was extremely disgusting stuff. I was very surprised he even played at Texas, to be honest. I mean, not as surprised when I saw who their head coach was before Rodney Terry, but it was pretty nasty stuff. So I don't know. I think Bill Self took an extreme risk by taking Arterio Morris, by the way, and it's blowing up in his face. But it's really not blowing up in his face, kind of to what you're pointing to. Like, people are, it's really not even in the news, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like the slant on the news here is just like, oh, Arterio's dismissed. Like, there's a lot more to this story than just that to me, and I don't get why no one wants to talk about it. I don't even know what I'm like. It's not like I want Bill Self to be like horrifically punished in any way for this. I think it was a really bad look, and we're kind of acting like it wasn't a bad look, and that's weird. To me, I don't know. I'm all for, like, okay, give guys second chances, whatever. They're young, they're college kids. I don't really think you deserve a second chance if you're accused of something involving like harassment, assault charges to women. I just don't. And if you want to call me crazy for that, whatever. We're not necessarily trying to make moral judgments across the board, but that is one thing I just don't think we need to give kids second chances for. I feel pretty strongly about that. And that applies in other sports. Like, I'm bummed out that Miles Bridges is just like back. I'm bummed out about that.
Redacted.
I'm bummed out that there's a lot of guys, a lot of athletes that seem to just be giving chance after chance that make mistakes like this. And it's frustrating to me that it's happening at the college level. It's frustrating to me that it's happening beyond that. It's not good. It's incredibly easy to not assault people. It's incredibly easy to not hit women. It's incredibly easy to be the adult in the room and not want people that hit women associated with your program. And I wish we would do that.
It's a nasty double standard. It truly is. It's nasty. You go back to the Chris Beard thing. Nasty double standard. Dude strangled his wife and beat his wife, and people are talking about, yeah, happens. People are in relationships, arguments happen. We don't know what their relationship's like. A year later, he's getting a huge bag at Ole Miss.
Yeah, just be better collectively, sports institutions. Like, I feel like there's so much ickiness involved across the board right now, and it's bothersome to me. So, all right, not exactly great vibes to start off the show. Kansas basketball will be very good, but I do think there's an element of this that's going to hang over the season, man. There's a lot of weird shit going on with personalities in that locker room, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they recover from losing Arterio Morris, because it could definitely have damaging effects.